the probes here, there, the ones that have been put on hold, the results of, have they been implemented anyone yet? All of these recommendations? Well, those are some of the big asks that we got this morning as we look at the series of probes, the ongoing ones. Perhaps, who knows which one pops up tomorrow. Well, Ikedi Isiguzo joins us now. He's the chairman, editorial board of Vanguard Newspapers. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's interesting to note that, look at the report. The results, this few subsidy probe reports seems to be generating already. They're picking holes in that committee's report and contradicting it. And this is coming just after the chairman of that committee said, well, we did what we did best to our knowledge and capability. And now you have this one. Where do we turn now?
I think it's part of the distraction we have in trying to make progress. Here is a report. It hasn't even been considered by the House. And I also believe the same process of the report being generated openly. The television had it live, and the media played a lot of role in throwing up all those figures when they are coming up. So this same report will go to the House to be considered openly. But you see, people are discrediting the reports. And unfortunately, so much emphasis is being laid on the report being discredited without it even being considered. So I thought if people had issues also, once the report gets out there in the public domain, they come and make their own contributions. But there are a couple of things that come up. I think we are so concerned about figures and scandals that we even miss the real issues. Oh, this person took this million, this took this billion, and we go with it. And then sometimes we don't even look at those figures properly. I'll give you an example. During the hearing itself, a former Minister of State for Petroleum, Alhaji Umaru Dembo, he turned up and contested the fact that the government said we are consuming 49 million liters yes, daily. And he said that his own proof was that we needed about 100,000 trucks to move that. But if a truck holds 33,000 liters, you need about 1,485 trucks to move 49 million, you know? And this was the headline, and then people now shifted focus from that to say, well, figures government was bringing up was not correct. I'm not saying that figure was even correct, but for a former minister to come up, throw up that, for 100,000 trucks, we need to move about 3.3 billion liters. But things as simple as that, people are not even looking at them. Is who took what money and who did not take what. So this report stands a very good chance of not being useful because of the approach people have to it. Is our petroleum resource being properly managed? No. It's obvious from the things that come up. Can we account for how many liters of petrol we import? We don't even seem to know. The money we are using, we say, is for subsidy. What we are actually paying for is inefficiency and all the corruption around people not knowing what is being consumed or what. You know, so this report would have, in a way, helped to see us cut off all those things and then address those issues, why our refineries are not working and things like that. But people are not interested in that. So what we are now seeing is, instead of those who benefit from this appearing to be the ones who should be answering questions, we are now seeing this, the people who wrote this report are being made to answer those questions. You know, so if the report is not correct, then you prove that it's not correct, not just to go all out to discredit it. My own way of looking at it is, if this report was compromised so much, the authors wouldn't have been so bold to come out in public to present it. You know, we have reports in the House that have, after the hearing, we don't see the reports. Yeah, but this one, months just after, is out.
The key word in that statement of yours is, it was compromised so much. So are you saying, are you suggesting that it could have been compromised but not as much?
You know, the language we use, unfortunately, is not our language. Elsewhere, what we call compromise is what people might just see as lobbying. And if you go to Capitol Hill, we are copying democracy. People register as lobbyists. What do lobbyists do? This is my own interest, and they try to pursue it. Sometimes they even pursue it by asking legislators in your constituency, we ensure the executive branch gets this project running or something. You know? So
and that doesn't mean corruption.
No, it does not. Yeah. It does not. Even
so in some
instances, it even means corruption. So because there have been groups who, if they know that their interests might be affected, they go somehow and contribute money for the legislators' election. I mean, out there in America. So sometimes we just go all out to try and look at things, you know, and exaggerate them in a way that the outcome of a report, because this type of report is so important that it can make fundamental changes to the way we manage things.
No, but that report, that statement of yours is very important in the sense that, are you saying that it's very possible that lobbyists
it would have been impossible for them not to have been lobbied. You cannot say to
no, but did succeed in influencing the outcome of the report, because that's some of the accusations now being made. For instance, some people are already pointing out that corn oil was exempted, this was exempted, from the headlines I was seeing in some of the papers this morning.
Those are the things then that when you are debating the reports, those things should come up. When you're debating the report, those things should come up. This report is 800 and something pages. I doubt if any of us has even had access to it already.
Yeah.
Even those who will start debating it tomorrow, I doubt if any of them has read those 800 pages. But it's so easy for people, because they want to throw this report out or discredit it. They look at just a couple of things or the summary and say the report does not matter. If some companies were exempted, why? That's the question that should be asked. You don't then say this shows this report is useless. No. It shows the report was incomplete or whatever you call it, but you still attend to the report. What we are seeing is a situation that people don't want this report to be debated. And then we should be asking why. There are 360 people in the House. All of them cannot be compromised at the same time. And then some of the people who are complaining of people being compromised, it probably means that they were unable to compromise the people. They are not so concerned that this report is compromised in the sense of, altruistic value of saying, okay, let this serve national purpose. No. It's because some of their own interests are not protected. I've even had people ask, why are people signing away checks, billions, and in this country I'm not involved? It's terrible. So if such a person was maybe involved, the report, no problem with the report. So there are so many interests, and it would surprise anyone if such a report just came and there are no controversies around it.
This interest you just talked about is what is making some Nigerians so uncomfortable, because the one that a document like this that everyone has been so interested in getting to see the outcome has come finally, but as you rightly said, we're getting to see another issue making the news. For instance, some are already taking the House of Representatives to court. So it gives some kind of questions, or puts some kind of question on the credibility of all of that. As Maokwe rightly said, that she was trying to ask you if truly when you said that looks like not... can we then call it a perfect document? Should we give room to some kind of...
Even the constitution on which we are working is not a perfect document. There's never a perfect document. Once you have a committee set up for a purpose like this, there will be so many interests. Even the House itself has interests. And people
is that possible?
Why wouldn't the House have interest? I'm even surprised through the hearing, nobody in the House was called up, to testify, because since 1999, we all know there have been various House committees on petroleum, downstream, upstream gas, and they're supposed to have oversight functions over this. So all this happened under the watch of the House, of the National Assembly. So in a way, this indictment or what cannot go on fully without the House being indicted. So if we should debate this report, then at the end of the day, people should also be asking, what does the National Assembly actually do? It's not supposed to be a post-mortem organization or what. It should be proactive. It should know that this amount maybe was voted for subsidy, and it should have a way of finding out, monitoring what is going on. It's not years and years after the money has been stolen or mismanaged or something, then you come set up committee and so on. No, it should do more than that. So the various committee chairmen, the various members of those House committees on petroleum, upstream, downstream, NNPC and so on, they should have testified at this
No, but
hearing.
it is remarkable that, if you look at, say, the executive summary of they would tell you that they chose 3 years for a reason. 2009, 2010, 2009, 10 and 11 for a reason, because 2011 showed a great disparity from what obtained in 2009 and 2010. So it's very possible that in those years they have been doing the job as they should, as members of the committee. This is a proposal in the sense that if you look at what happened in the Senate when Senator Saraki raised a red flag over the amount that was budgeted for subsidy and was actually being spent on subsidy, you would see that in some ways you can say that the National Assembly was proactive. Can you not?
No. By the time we can forgive him, he's just getting into the National Assembly. So in a way you could forgive him. He just got in. Last.
No, but isn't that odd? The budget 250 billion naira, and then over 1.3 trillion had been spent by the time they were speaking for just 2011 alone.
You're making my point.
So why are we forgiving him?
Senator Saraki just came in last year.
You don't think other senators would have raised
What
the
were
flag
they
on
doing?
it?
That money had been spent while the other senators were there. That's the point I'm saying. Why didn't they raise the flag? It just came in last year. He was governor until May thereabout last year. Then won election into the Senate. So the other senators who were there when this money was overspent, because by the time he raised the flag, the money had been overspent. So why didn't they raise any flag? That's what I'm asking. So they themselves already stand indicted for failing in the oversight function. You know? So that's part of the compromise you're talking about. If I had been a committee chairman or involved in one of those committees, and over these years, I didn't do my oversight function properly, and somehow I'm a member of this committee, what type of report do you think I'll produce? It will also tend to cover what we've done and push all the fault towards the executive. Unfortunately, the executive doesn't hold public hearings. So it doesn't get this type of, at public hearings, someone could come, say all types of things, and then win a lot of popularity. The executive does not. So it doesn't have the type of advantage of producing a report like this. But what I'm saying is, the National Assembly is part of government.
Yeah.
3 arms: the executive, the judiciary, the legislature. So sometimes when the members of the National Assembly come and they are condemning things going on in government, and they have committees.
It's just politics then.
Yes, it's politics, and they have committees that have oversight functions over this. Then you ask, what does the National Assembly
But how much power does the oversight committee, the committees hold? Their oversight function, how much power do they actually wield? If at the end of the day now, the committee, the ad hoc committee that sat to do this, came up with this report, and that's where it's going to end, in the sense that it will be adopted, and they literally almost do not have any powers to implement. How much power do they have?
They have a lot of powers. But part of the thing that has happened, and for me is a bit of the tragedy of the whole situation, we do not, the PDP, for example, is in majority. It's a majority in the House. So what is really going on? You would have then be asking, what is PDP's policy on corruption, on petroleum, on accountability, in relation to this circumstance? If it was now, what we would have been looking at, this party's policy, has it been upheld by the way the executive has behaved, which has been PDP since 1999.
So that's another way we can frame the question.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. So when the people come and they're just firing shots from different directions, those things don't mean anything. In fact, there's a lot of confusion about this, all meant to ensure that this report does not have sustained public attention, because the public will need to push this report to the point that we ask those questions. Yeah. The House is not going to do anything, because, as I said, the House itself is indicted. Honorable Farouk and his group, they did a great job, even in terms of what they came up with. And then you can imagine the type of pressure that they would have gone through and still produce this.
Do you think they will debate this report at the end
of the House? No, they have to debate it. If they don't debate it, they will have to make so much explanation not debating it, that the best thing is to debate it. I don't know how well it will be debated or what, but
because it starts tomorrow, and that's the question, Chimula, as rightly said. But again, if you look at it, even though officially, and you even say it's not even possible for almost all members to have gone through all of that volume we saw individually for them to come make some kind of meaningful contribution from tomorrow as it starts. But looks like the government has already done all of that by itself. They've gone through everything, because now we're getting to hear that some of the auditing firms, 2 of them, have been hit by the government, saying that, hey, you didn't do a good job for us.
You know what I'm laughing? Where was government? Government found out from this report that those firms didn't.
No. They said they didn't say that. They said they started a review process in February. That review process finally culminated in the firing of this audit firms.
Okay. The way government works is a mystery, and for most people, it's useful for government to be a mystery. Was it from February this year that we just found out that this auditing is poor? It's not. And why do I blame the National Assembly again? If you go through the Constitution, under its rules in accounting for public funds, political parties, government agencies are supposed to submit audited reports annually to the National Assembly. Are those things done? If they are done, what do you do with this? So there are various points at which these flags should have been raised. And don't forget, we've been going through due process. Everything in government now we're told is on due process. For over 5 years, we've been talking of due process. Where is that due process? Did it start in February? So all these things are just part of the ploy to ensure that by the time the House goes through with this, government would have said, anyway, even before you finish, we've done some things. We've fired some people. We've done this and so on. But the House also, many people forget, the House also, you were asking what the House could do. In trying to enforce some things, the House can go to court. The House can take those agencies to court. It can.
Over what? Non-performance graphs?
No, not performance. Over the outcome of this report, it can. Secondly, it's the same House that approves its budgets. It's the same House that approves several things for these agencies. So it has ways of saying, no, you didn't do well at this point. We are not having any dealings with you. But they know. But the level of involvement of so many people in so many things make these things impossible.
Yeah, but
that's the thing.
Another question, arising from that one is that if so many people are involved in this, assuming you have a lot of government agencies involved, assuming you have ministers involved, or even some members of the House of Reps, is the report going to see the light of the day, even if it's debated at some point?
It will see. Maybe you should be asking how much light it will see. You might be asking how much light it will see. But we are at the point that this report has to be debated. Because the House itself took off with a lot of credibility for itself. It can't midway abandon it. No explanations will be enough. And I have a feeling that there's a strong group that is making all this noise about the report will not be debated to ensure that it's debated. It's part of the pressure on the House to ensure this is debated. People are saying, no, nothing will come out of this. So it's for the House to then go on to say something will come out of this. But I think also as the media, we have to play a lot of role in this. This is not the type of report that in 2 days we are tired of it. Maybe if there are some security issues, we chase them and so on. No, this is a very important report. And I think we have something to hold on.
I'm happy you're saying this. How can we stay on it? How can we stay on the story? Because truly, that has always been the case here. You're chasing a particular story and the focus and the searchlight is on it. And the next minute you have a bigger story to pursue. And by the time you think you're coming back to that, 2, 3, 4 has overtaken that. So how can you stay on this?
How to stay on it is to talk to people who are passionate about this. And you won't find them in government. There are so many organizations that are passionate about this being remaining as a story. Because the issue hasn't even been scratched. It hasn't been scratched. We haven't seen the report, not to talk of what should be done. So it's a very long, it's a very long story. And we should then get to a point that when government officials talk, particularly those whose agencies and so have been mentioned, we take them back to this. We can stay on this story if we want to. But we can just forget it because we say, okay, government is no longer saying anything about it, or the House is like, no. There are so many people who want to talk about this story outside government, outside the House. Companies also who think that they've been offended. So all those are points at which you can hang this story and keep running it. A document of 800 pages, if you go through almost every page, you find a story. You'll find a story.
Should we be looking at the institutions, agencies, parastatals, or companies, or individuals now? Because people are a little bit confused when you talk about this X amount of money being tied to a particular institution. Is it about the individual or the institution?
We have to look at both. Because we run a very funny system. If you're a DG of an organization, the way this country runs, the organization becomes you. It's like you're fiefdom, you run it. And that's why we are not making so much progress. We try to build institutions, but individuals get in there and they take over. Run those places the way they want to run them. And then those who appoint them sometimes tend to just appoint them and they're not concerned. That's why I'm talking about the National Assembly. People come to you, you confirm them to certain positions. And they are not superintending what they are doing. Then years and years and years of them doing this same thing wrongly. When they are gone, then you try and do some public hearing. And these public hearings, increasingly, they're just becoming shows. Some rituals that must be done annually for people to know the committees are there. We need to see things coming out from this. And then this, for me, this is a major report. If anyone was looking for a reason to do something, this is a major report. But also it's important that there are other areas of our national life where we've had hearings that we are not taking serious. Coming here, I was just thinking, is it because this is about petroleum? Petroleum is probably not as important to our lives as maybe climate change. But if this report was on climate change, I'm telling you, nobody will be interested.
The one that the Senate had, not even the subsidy report now, about the BPE, they came up with some recommendations to the executive arm of government. Nothing has been done about it till date. And so it raises also some questions. If at the end of the day, the House debates this report and makes some recommendation, do you see the executive arm of government implementing that if they come up with such recommendations also?
I think it will depend on what the National Assembly sets out to do each time these committees are set up. To target or objective really be to just have a hearing, come up with a report, debate it, and then submit something to the executive. I expect the House should follow that up, whether it's the House or the Senate, follow that up with the executive. If we're saying to clean up the oil sector, some infractions were involved and people should be punished, it shouldn't end there. It shouldn't end there, because if we don't do that, we are setting a precedent. Would you then, when the House does such a report and send it, you start implementing? Each report that then is debated and concluded, something must be done about it. That's how we start. Everybody's talking of transformation and reforms and so on. How would those be possible if we have instances of people who have been alleged to do some wrong, whether established or not? Let's get to the end and find out if they are guilty. If they are, then some measures should be taken. But why that is, again, not so possible is government must have direction. Government must have direction. If government's direction is just captured by the word transparency, which everybody uses, then it must be seen as being transparent. Not after offenses have been committed, even in the way it operates. Because most of these things could have been taken care of if we had systems that were checking what was going on.
Well, it looks like that's exactly what government agencies are knocking heads together, and that's what NNPC is trying to say here, saying, look at this headline. NNPC dares CBN, they want proof of whatever they say they've done.
No. It's not, that's not even, at the point of asking for proof, something has gone wrong. If within the NNPC, its own approval processes should be able to dictate wrongdoing. It's not just necessarily fraud. Even before the fraud happens, there are some decisions that if you take in, then people should see that those things will lead to some fraud. That's the type of thing we are talking about.
Saying that,
not after someone says you've taken money, you're asking for proof. Whether a proof is produced or not does not mean money was not taken. Because the system we run, by the time you're saying produce proof, it might as well mean that the documents are not available anymore. That still does not mean no wrongdoing took place.
Well,
do you understand
the NNPC doesn't seem to be admitting to any wrongdoing right now.
It will never admit to any wrongdoing.
Because there's no wrong.
We've for years been told NNPC is supposed to repatriate money to the Federation account. He never agrees it's owing money. And once in a while he says it's owing and asks the money should be phased. But even when he's told to pay that money, people don't have a proper record of what is NNPC is owing.
Yeah, but
owing the government.
This is where that comes in.
Yes.
Part of the report says this lack of record keeping contributed in no small measure to the decadence and rot the committee found in the administration of the PSF. It says this is also evident in the budget preparatory process by MDAs, where adequate data is not made available to the National Assembly. So could it be why
the National Assembly has enough resources to generate its own data? It has enough consultants working for it that it should generate data. It should have its own data that it should compare with what comes from the executive. It shouldn't be the MDAs who you are doing oversight function on them, then they give you data. What do you compare that data with? So that's the thing. The National Assembly has been asleep. It has been a place people just go, they are paid allowances and so on, and they wait for the next election. There should be, each committee in the National Assembly should have enough information on the organization it's overseeing. So it doesn't wait for that organization. So if an MDA comes and says, this is how much we spent, what do you use to find out if that's what is spent? And even the budget we're talking about, the budget process, the figures the ministries and MDAs come up with what does the National Assembly check that so that it's able to approve those budgets or not? So we still have a long way to go. And that's why I'm saying this report is very important. It's important in the sense that oil, gas, petroleum, those are matters we pay a lot of attention to. Maybe for the wrong reasons. But let's even try and see what we can make out of this. Because if we go around, then it means various government agencies, we're just dealing with oil and gas alone. It doesn't mean if you go to another government agency, it's keeping records.
Okay.
Even records of our population. Records of how many people have national ID cards. Things as simple as that. And without those records, how are we going to plan properly? So it's important that we take note of these things beyond what this report holds.
Okay, well, the committee also spoke through this, I beg your pardon, the House's spokesperson, Zachary Mohammed. He's spoken about what they intend to do about this report even before it came to this point where they generate a lot of heat. Here's what he said during that conference.
The report is very important. It's important in the sense that oil, gas, petroleum, those are, matters we pay a lot of attention to. Maybe for the wrong reasons. But if we go around, then it means various government agencies, we're just dealing with oil and gas alone. It doesn't mean if you go to another government agency, it's keeping records.
It doesn't mean if you go to another government agency, it's keeping records. So it's important that we take note of these things beyond what this report holds.
We have to clear doubts. There are people where we've monitored in the media, people have already started casting aspersions, which of course is very, very unfortunate, because oversight functions are an integral part of legislation. And people see it as if we are just prognosing into affairs that don't affect us. No. Rather, we actually want to use the opportunity to let them see us and see our intentions. And that's why it's going to be in the public layer. Rather than sit somewhere where people will begin to draw conclusions. It's going to be that open. So I assure you, I've discussed with the leadership, and before saying what I said, I know, I'm convinced that with those things will come live. Definitely, Nigerians should expect that it will come live too, because that will even improve the quality of reportage, and Nigerians will be on the same page with us as we carry on. What we see, they see.
There you go. That's just one of them. But over the weekend, you also do have lots of reports, which they say that a whole lot of maybe one or two civil society groups are getting ready to put in strategies to ensure that this one is not swept under the carpet. But if you look at what they've said, some of them intend to go to court, some of them may hold more rallies. Are all of this going to contribute in any way to make sure that this is not kept under the carpet?
I think it will, but the aspect I'm a bit skeptical about, though, is like a last resort is going to court. Most of the people involved in this will be very happy.
To go to court?
Yeah, that the matter goes to court.
Why?
Yeah, it could be there for years.
Because nothing can be done
about it. Yeah, it could be there for years and nothing will come. You get injunctions, you go to appeal, you go to Supreme Court.
That's not a good story.
No, it's not. It's not. You know, I'm looking at the fact that when people threaten to go to court, it's not really an easy process, you know, that can get the type of results that we want. What I'm concerned about is, what is government's own concerns about this? If we have government, people leading at various levels, and under their supervision, all these resources are, you know, being wasted,